New tonight, nearly 1 year since the shootings of Minnesota lawmakers, a big step forward in the federal case.
Vance Boelter, the man accused of assassinating the late Melissa Hortman and her husband and shooting 2 others, is now expected to plead guilty to federal charges.
Northern News Now's Ella Schoberl is live in studio tonight, taking a look at developments in Boelter's case. Ella?
Yeah, that's right. Boelter is accused of fatally shooting former House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark and wounding Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette last summer. He originally pleaded not guilty in August, but in tomorrow's hearing, Boelter is expected to change that. Boelter is facing 6 federal charges, including 2 counts of stalking, 2 counts of murder, and 2 counts of firearms violations. The request for a plea change hearing came from the U.S. Attorney for Minnesota tonight. This comes after the Department of Justice announced Monday that it would not seek the death penalty against Boelter. Tonight's letter says the decision was a part of a proposed plea agreement, and as part of that agreement, Boelter is expected to change his plea to guilty in a Minneapolis courtroom tomorrow. Boelter also faces multiple state charges, and that includes 2 counts of first-degree premeditated murder and 4 counts of attempted first-degree murder. Senator Hoffman's family also filed a civil lawsuit against Boelter in April, seeking the maximum damages permitted by law. That lawsuit accuses him of assault, battery, and intentionally inflicting emotional distress. This Sunday will mark 1 year since the shootings. Live in studio, Ella Schoberl, Northern News Now.